Joining me, Jack Burkman, Republican strategist, K Street lobbyist, and host of Behind the Curtain, Saturday mornings at 10 on Newsmax TV. Also, Richard Fowler, Democratic strategist and host of the nationally syndicated Richard Fowler Show. Download his podcast at fowlershow.com. The upcoming Super Tuesday contest marked the biggest single-day delegate haul of the nomination contest. A strong showing by GOP frontrunner Donald Trump could put the nomination within his grasp. It showed Thursday night as the latest debate turned into a slugfest.
Well, you don't know anything about business.
Well, I don't know anything about bankrupting four companies.
Where was Donald? He was firing Dennis Rodman on Celebrity Apprentice.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
If he builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
He lied, 100%.
If he hadn't inherited $200 million, you know where Donald Trump would be right now? Selling watches in Manhattan.
This is another area on which Donald agrees with Hillary Clinton.
I think Bush did a hell of a bad job. First of all, very few people listen to your radio show. That's the good news.
A lot of these positions that he's now taking are new to him.
When you say crazy zealot, are you talking about you?
You may not be aware of this, Donald, because you don't follow this stuff very closely.
I know you're embarrassed. I know you're embarrassed, but keep fighting, keep swinging, man. Swing for the fences. I watched him melt down, and I'll tell you, it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. We had a lot of fun up here tonight, I have to tell you. Thank you for the book.
Donald, relax.
Go ahead, I'm relaxed. You're the basket case.
The insults kept flying. On Friday, Trump took to Twitter and misspelled the words choker and honor. Rubio hit the campaign stump and suggested Trump had a backstage meltdown. Richard, this was entertaining, sure, but the debate was short on substance. Is this what the general election will look like?
For the Republicans, yes. And here's the thing. I think there's a lot of Republican pundits out there claiming this a victory and spiking a football for either Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. And honestly, I watched the debate twice. I watched it over again to make sure I didn't get my analysis wrong. And I actually think Donald Trump did a great job. He was taking on water from both sides for a double attack, and he held his own. And I think beyond that, he's the only one in the debate that managed to crystallize his points. And the reason why they're attacking him is because, number one, he's the front runner, and number two, they know, just like the American people know, what the polls say. Donald Trump will have a huge, with the Y, victory this coming Super Tuesday.
I mean, it was tag team wrestling, except they had
What
what
surprises me,
Jack, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Rubio went off script and knocked Trump off balance, but Trump gained a big supporter today, Friday, winning the endorsement of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Is the race over?
Oh, I think it's over. And Christie's big. I would have thought Christie would have gone for Rubio actually easily, but Christie surprised everyone with this. He certainly surprised me. On points, Morris, I think Ted Cruz actually won the debate. I think he won it rather convincingly. Rubio did well on health care, blasting Trump. But Rubio he continues to come across as a guy who's running for president of the senior class rather than president of the United States. I think the country will continue to see Trump as a leader. The biggest problem both Cruz and Rubio have is that the field remains spread. There's one way for Marco Rubio to be the nominee, and only one way, and maybe we can make some news. He needs to make an ironclad deal with Ted Cruz. Offer him the vice presidency now. Have someone maybe like a Paul Ryan witness it so it's ironclad. If he's willing to do that, get Cruz out of the race, then he might at least have a chance. But as long as you have 5 candidates in the field, no matter what Rubio does, he essentially has no chance.
And then, like any good politician, Cruz could always back out and change his mind.
Well, I disagree with Jack on this one point. I just don't really see, at least to me, maybe we were watching different debates, but I didn't see where Ted Cruz came out as a winner. He didn't crystallize any of his points. I'm still not really sure clearly what he believes in and what he's running on, besides the fact that he's going to win his home state.
Well, look,
and I think if you look at the polls over the next couple weeks, which you don't even have to, just wait till Tuesday, you'll see that the debate performance wasn't as convincing as Jack thinks it was.
Well, no, I don't. Listen, as you know, I'm very favorable to the Donald. I'm extremely favorable to Trump. I'm a little bit surprised, Morris, that Richard is so eager to run against Trump. It reminds me of Reagan. It almost reminds me of Reagan in the 60s when everybody was so eager to run against him as governor, and the LA Times made fun of him day after day. I think it's the same thing with Donald Trump. Democrats, look, Richard is salivating over the prospect of running against Trump. I think it'll backfire.
We'll beat all the polls say we will beat all three of them. We'll beat Marco because he has no experience. He's weak sauce. He's weak sauce, no experience. We'll beat Ted Cruz because he's so far to the right. You can't go farther to the right.
You have to understand.
We'll beat Donald Trump because he pretty much agrees with us on Planned Parenthood.
Richard, you have a candidate who's been in politics for 30 years, and Republicans have yet to attack her.
You guys have three weak sauce, inexperienced candidates.
All right, let's talk about the Supreme Court. Earlier this week, we learned the White House was vetting Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval for the Supreme Court. Democratic Senator Harry Reid said he would support him. Then Sandoval took himself out of the running. What's going on here, Richard?
Well, here's what I think the White House did, and it was a very artful move by the president and his communications team. Was they literally, what we would call, socially, they trolled the GOP.
Well, it's a trial balloon.
Yeah, they trial ballooned it, knowing good and well that Mitch McConnell was going to stick to his talking points and look crazy. That's exactly what happened. They put up a tried and true conservative Republican governor, and Mitch McConnell, oh, we won't consider him. And I think the Republicans realized after the fact, and they were like, oh, did we just say that?
Yes, Richard, but yeah. We also realize that the president is committing a kind of fraud. The president
How is he committing a fraud?
The president shouldn't be using the Supreme Court nomination process for fraudulent purposes.
How? What's fraudulent?
He had no intention of sending Sandoval up.
How do you know that? Are you at the White House?
Call us bluff. We could call us bluff. Here's a Republican and Hispanic. It looks bad for the Republicans to say no about this.
And that's simply why he did it, but that reinforces the fact that the president had absolutely no intention of putting forth Sandoval.
All right, so let's talk about this. McConnell says his 54-member Republican caucus is opposed to holding confirmation hearings.
So the question is, who should make the decision? And my view, and I can now confidently say the view shared by virtually everybody in my conference, is that the nomination should be made by the president, the people elect, in the election that's underway right now. In fact, we've had three of them already.
All right, Democrats have responded with what Politico calls a shame campaign. All right, Jack, if Obama nominates a moderate, will McConnell be forced to reconsider?
No, I think politically it's impossible. I think if McConnell considers anything, I think if he even so much as holds hearings, I think conservatives will throw him out, and who knows, Ted Cruz might end up being majority leader, or John Thune or somebody. The broader point, Morris, even if you didn't have this kind of controversy, I don't know that there's time to even get this process done. Congress could adjourn as early as September. I think all this is really much ado about nothing.
All right, on the left, Hillary Clinton appears to be on a roll. She's expected to cruise in South Carolina, and new polls show her leading Bernie Sanders in Massachusetts and Florida. She also picked up a key endorsement from Harry Reid.
I think the middle class would be better served by Hillary. I think that my work with her over the years has been something that I've looked upon with awe. When she was the First Lady, she started the trend toward doing something about health care. She understood the issue.
Reid isn't the only one talking about health care. Clinton brings it up often on the campaign trail. Is Obamacare finally being embraced by the Democratic Party, Richard?
I think Obamacare was always embraced by the Democratic Party. We just didn't think it went far enough. But to go back to Jack points with the Supreme Court for just a second, I think the Republicans are really overcalculating here, right? This is going to be a really, really tough Senate race, tough Senate cycle for them. Jack knows it. I know Republicans know it. And them not doing their job, and them going to recess instead of doing their job, which is to approve and consent a candidate, just shows that their lack of responsibility, and the American people, is going to reflect in the voting polls.
I don't see any reason.
To Hillary.
I see no reason we can't let the democratic process and wait for the new president.
Why would we, when the Constitution says the current sitting president has they've already decided.
Let the people decide
3
the
years
direction
ago.
of the Supreme Court.
They decided 3 years ago in November. It was a cold night. I don't know if you remember.
Jack, back to Obamacare. Do you think that the Democrats doubling down on Obamacare, does that give the Republicans even stronger ammunition?
Oh, I do. It keeps it in play. Absolutely it does. And you saw it with Harry Reid. I think it's almost funny. It shows you in some sense, Morris, how politically weak Hillary is. The Senate minority leader waited until she's essentially the nominee before he would endorse her. He waited until the Democratic race was effectively over, as I think it now is.
All right, before we wrap up, I'd like to talk about Mexico. Donald Trump has repeatedly promised to build a wall along the southern U.S. border and make Mexico pay for it. Last week, that prompted a dispute with Pope Francis. This week, it prompted a dispute with former Mexican President Vicente Fox.
I declare, I'm not going to pay for that wall. He should pay for it. He's got the money.
Are you afraid that he's going to be the next president of the United States? What would that mean? What would that mean for Mexico?
No, not at all. Democracy cannot take us to crazy people that doesn't know what's going on in the world today.
Then Vice President Joe Biden appeared to apologize for Trump during a joint press conference with the current Mexican president.
I just want you to know, Mr. President, that the most heated of the rhetoric you've heard from some of the competitors for the nomination for president is not who we are as the American people.
During the Republican debate, Trump attacked Cruz for not having any friends in the Senate. Meanwhile, Trump is making enemies out of allies on a critical U.S. border. What's the play here, Jack?
Well, I like to digress, Morris. I love Rubio's line. I think his best line of the night was, well, if you build it with, maybe you'll build that wall with illegal help, much like you built Trump Tower. I don't know. I think that Trump is serious about the wall. I think it plays well. I don't know. Biden, everybody wants to make fun of Trump, but I don't see it working.
Richard, should Biden have apologized?
No, he should have, because I think what people are seeing across the world is this guy might actually win because all the numbers say he's going to win, and he doesn't really. He's only going to win the GOP primary. He won't win the White House, and he doesn't speak for 99.9% of Americans.
One thing to remember is that the 16% base among Hispanics, that's actually a good place to start. Trump, between now and November, will have ample opportunity. If that number gets as high as 27%, that could be a game changer in the general election.
Wait a minute. I agree. I agree that the rate, like 20%, if the Republicans get 20% of the Latino vote, like George Bush got in 2004, then it is a game changer. But Donald Trump is not. None of the three top-tier candidates are in line to do that. They've said some of the most despicable, xenophobic, and racist things that any campaign has said in recent history.
Trump's greatest political strength, well, one, that he can draw working-class Democrats, but two, he can draw African Americans, I think, in higher percentage than any other Republican candidate in history.
I'm not saying that the African American vote's not monolithic, but I can tell you they're not voting for Donald Trump.
All right, I hope we don't ever have to build a wall between the two of you. Richard Fowler, Democratic strategist, Jack Burkman, Republican strategist, the best political panel on TV. Thanks to you both.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.